My name is Emily. I'm 28. I wasn't going to die. I never thought death would seem like this, so ordinary. It was a normal morning. Brooklyn, early fall, the subway humming like a huge metal beast. I had coffee in my hands and headphones in my ears. The day was supposed to pass like everything else. Work, screens, rush. And suddenly everything stopped. Something clicked in my chest. Not pain, but rather failure. A sudden, dense emptiness inside. I remember trying to breathe, but my lungs wouldn't work. The world slowed around them, faces blurred. The last thing I saw was a light in the tunnel. Not a metaphor. Literally. He was getting closer. And then nothing. No tunnel. No welcome at all. Just a strange, infinitely long white corridor. No shadows. Mute. I couldn't feel the floor under my feet or my body. I felt like I was a thought frozen in time. And there, in that silent space, I saw her. She was standing in the front. Tall, thin, in a simple gray dress from another time. Her face beautiful, but stern, almost stony, was familiar to me. Not like a relative, but like someone I saw in books? On icons? She didn't say who she was. But I got it. Elizabeth. Not as Mother John, not as a character from the Bible. She was something else. It's like a form of feminine truth that has passed through the ages. But her eyes were there, full of terror. I tried to speak, but my tongue wouldn't work. Her voice didn't ring in my ears. It went through me like an electric current. They mark people, Emily. The world around him wavered. I have a black mark on my hands. The letter M, as if burned into the skin. I screamed, but there was no sound. They think it's an affiliation. But this is a verdict. I didn't understand. Who is they? What's the label? Why me? Why Elizabeth? Listen to me. You can still do it. She came closer, and her shadow suddenly became long and endless. I saw faces in it. Millions of faces. People, children, and the elderly all have the same place marks. Some carried them with pride. Others wept, rubbing their skin until it bled. I'm not a god, but I'm the last person who can warn you. I tried to touch her, but at the same time, her face turned as pale as marble. Elizabeth's lips moved, but I couldn't hear the words. Only one image remained in my mind, a giant funnel of light into which the marked ones fell. Without resistance. Without shouting. And then I woke up. On the floor of the metro station. All around medics. Lights of lanterns, screams. But I was cold inside. And a mark on my arm like a burn. I haven't slept since. Because I know Elizabeth hasn't said everything yet. And if I don't understand what this label means, I'll go back there. But this time forever. 3 weeks have passed since that day. I tried to convince myself that it was just a hallucination. Lack of oxygen. Panic. Psychosomatic effect. But the explanation disappeared the night I first saw the mark again. I stood in the bathroom, staring into the mirror. The light flickered dimly. The skin on my wrist itched as if ants were crawling under it. When I pulled back my sleeve, there she was. The same barely noticeable, as if made with charcoal, but with a strange blue glow in the moonlight. I tried to erase it. Soaped it up. I did laundry. Scratching with her fingernails. It bled, but the mark remained. It just got brighter. Deeper. It was like being revived by pain. I couldn't take it to anyone. What can I say? Hi, I was marked after clinical death. But I did find a woman that night. Her name was Linda, and she kept a strange blog. I'd read it before when I was looking for an explanation for everything that had happened to me. There was a lot of nonsense in her notes, but one article caught me by the throat. The M sign is not the initial letter. This is the way to go. Label on who belongs. I wrote to her. The next day we met in an abandoned cafe on the outskirts of the city. Linda was old, with long silver hair and dark glasses. My hands were shaking, but her voice carried everything I'd felt in the hallway: fear, but also knowledge. You're not the first, she said, without asking, one of the few people who came back with a memory. I showed her my hand. She nodded. M is marked, she whispered. Marked ones. There are more of them. Not everyone sees the sign. Only those who are allowed. By whom? The one who stands between. Between light and the illusion of light. I felt sick. What does that mean? I belong to what? Linda looked me in the eye. You heard the voice, didn't you? A woman? I nodded. Then you already know the answer. The mark is not a curse. This is a warning. But almost no one understands why. I asked the question that was bothering me. Why me? Linda paused. And then she answered. Because you haven't chosen yet. Well, when I got home, I was shaking. Moonlight streamed in through the window. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Just one image. The corridor and Elizabeth standing at the very edge of the world. And her words, which now sound different. They think it's an affiliation. But this is a verdict. That night I dreamed of masked men walking through the streets. All of them have place marks. But no one saw them. Everyone was walking in the same direction. They were led. The dreams wouldn't let go. They were getting more accurate. Deeper and deeper. I've seen people, thousands of faces, and they all have one thing in common, the M mark on their wrists or palms. Some of them were smiling. Some were crying. But they all walked in silence. None of them spoke. Not one of them screamed. Even the babies carried in their arms were silent. There was no sound in these dreams, except for one that was barely audible, like the whisper of the wind. They already belong. They cannot be awakened. Just watch them go. When I woke up in a cold sweat, I realized that these were not just visions. These are not images born of fear. This is an observation. What they show me. Or, let me remember. I started noticing details in reality. Matches that didn't exist before. People on the subway with identical scars. The woman in the store who had the shadow of the same mark on her wrist. I met her gaze and she disappeared into the crowd, as if she knew what I was seeing. I went back to see Linda. She waited. Her voice hardened. A place mark is not just a symbol. This is a portal. Those who wear it become entry points. Why, you're not ready to know. And the ones who don't, they're either asleep or they resist. But the price of resistance is memory. That's why you remember everything. This is your payback. I asked her a question that matured inside. Why is all this hidden? Why doesn't anyone talk about it? Linda looked out the window. Then she said, because silence is part of the plan. The more people with the tag, the quieter the world becomes. And silence is an invitation. This is a transition. I sat there in a daze. My head was buzzing. Then Linda pulled out an old book. Untitled. On the cover is a burned-out symbol, similar to M, but made up of 3 crossed keys. It's something that's not allowed to be named. A system that stands above religion, politics, even death. Calling them the Silent Gate. Who are they? Those who belong to neither the light nor the dark. Those who came before Eden and stayed after. Inside the book were names, dates, blood-written quotes, and in the middle of the page, as if scratched by fingernails, the words, when the number of marked ones is full, the gate will open on its own. And in that moment, I understood. I don't just see it. I'm part of the key. I haven't eaten in 24 hours. The world seemed blurry, like a thick curtain of rain. My heart wasn't beating inside my chest, but somewhere outside, as if someone was holding it in their hands and gently squeezing it. When I got home, I found a strange envelope in my mailbox. Without a name, without a stamp. On paper, just a short phrase. Read Matthew 24 verse 24. And then Jeremiah 6 verse 10. When I opened the Bible, I could barely hold it in my hands from trembling. Matthew 24 verse 24. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and give great signs and wonders, to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Jeremiah 6 verse 10. Their ear is uncircumcised, and they cannot hear. Behold, the word of the Lord is a reproach to them, and it is displeasing to them. The words echoed inside me like a blow to an empty church. Too precise. Too personal. I remembered the dream. One of the first. In that dream, I was standing at the foot of a mountain. A figure with white wings towered over me. But the longer I looked at her, the more her face contorted. It cracked like porcelain, revealing a void beneath it, not a skull, but a vortex of darkness that breathed. The creature was smiling, and it spoke in a voice like the voice of Jesus in my first vision. Peace has already been accepted. Only faith remained. Give it to me and you will be free. I woke up screaming. That same night, Linda called again. Her voice was hollow, as if it came from underwater. They've already started speaking on his behalf. They use images, symbols, even the Holy Scriptures. Don't you notice how everything turns upside down? What do you mean? Remember what you saw on their wrists, but not Mary, or peace, or mercy. This. She paused. It's a mimicry mark. Fakes. Images without substance. They create false images of Jesus, and they lead millions under that name. I froze, because I knew who I'd seen in my first vision. It wasn't Jesus. It was something like him, but empty. A fake that speaks the right words but doesn't have a heart. And suddenly I realized that the coming temptation is not a war, not blood, a substitution. They don't destroy faith. They copy it. They disguise themselves as her. And the label M is a print. The seal that opens the entrance in man, not to God, but to the mirrored sky. A place where everything is right, but nothing is sacred. I lit a candle and spread out Linda's book. I opened a page with a list of dates. And only now did I see, next to each date was a name, and next to each name, the same letter. I stood up. I went to the mirror. She looked down at her hands. Long thoroughly. Nothing. But for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw a shadow in the firelight on the inside of my hand. Gently curved, like a wing or horn. I do not know what made me go there. Curiosity, perhaps. Maybe a hunch. Or the voice inside that said, "You should see it for yourself." The church Linda had mentioned was on the edge of town, surrounded by a thick fog. The architecture was strange, a classic Gothic facade, but the dome was made of glass, like a supermarket. Everything was there, unnaturally perfect. I went in. They were singing, but it wasn't a choir. The voices were precisely tuned, as if synthesized. Not a single mistake. Not a drop of passion. It was as if someone had taken the thousands of voices of believers, filtered them through, and returned them in perfect, dead-clear unison. A chill ran down my spine. The altar was huge. The icon of Jesus is bigger than any other church I've ever seen. But the face, it wasn't looking. It was watching. A woman with a child was standing next to me. I turned to her and froze. On the child's wrist was a embark, made as if from liquid metal. She was moving. I was breathing. I whispered, "I'm sorry, what is this?" The woman smiled. "It's a sign of the chosen ones. We don't sin anymore. We are connected to it directly." The word Nim came out without emotion. As a code. As an instruction. The preacher came out to the pulpit. He was tall, with piercing blue eyes and absolutely white teeth. He spoke in a voice of love. He spoke of forgiveness, of a new union with God, of the removal of guilt. But every word he said seemed to slide across the inside of my skull like the icy tongue of a snake. "And let there be a punishment in the Old Testament. The new one has freedom," he said. Freedom from fear. From the court. From differences. God is in all of us. We are a reflection of him. We are the gods who remember who they were. People applauded. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't work. The altar shook. A large screen moved out from behind the lectern. An image of a heart appeared on it, anatomically correct, beating, pulsing. Inside it is the label M. Accept it. Let him in. The old faith was just a sketch. Now it's the truth. I threw up, right in the aisle between the benches. People looked at me with pity. Not with disgust, not with alarm, but with pity. Like I was sick. As if something was missing from me. I ran out into the street. On my knees in the mud, gasping for breath. Behind her, she heard a voice, not loud, but close to her ear. "You're one of the last people who can still see. But even you don't know who's behind their politeness." I turned around. No one. Only the church, glowing from the inside with a cold light, like an aquarium with an imitation of holiness. I came home in a state that I can't describe. Everything felt fake. The furniture, the air, even my hands. It was as if I was looking at my own life through a glass. Thick, cold, impenetrable. I couldn't sleep last night. The moonlight fell on the windowsill like a silver knife. I was sitting on the kitchen floor, hugging my knees, trying to stop shaking when I heard a knock. 3 clear knocks on the door. No one. But there was an envelope on the mat. The paper is old and yellowed. The address is written in a handwriting I haven't seen in 15 years. It was Amy, my little sister. She died in a car accident in 2008. My fingers were trembling treacherously. I tore open the envelope. Asterisk, Emily. If you're reading this, then you've been there. I knew it would find you, just as it found me. Everything you saw wasn't a hoax. This is true, but not the one that saves. This is the truth that replaces the truth. Remember the church on the hill? A real church. The one with no screens. It smelled like wood and dust. Where the saints weren't holograms. Is not a sign of the Messiah. This is a silent contract. The soul's signature on a document she hadn't read. They smile. They give you warmth. They teach forgiveness. But all this is a showcase. What you heard at the service was not the voice of God. It was a voice carved from the flesh of sacred texts, turned upside down in a mirror. Emily, find them. Those who still remember what silence sounds like in a real prayer. They're close by. They need you. Asterisk. I read the letter again and again. It smelled of time. Not with dust, not with ink. It smelled like it had lain in another dimension. I put the letter down and went to the mirror. And suddenly a shadow behind my reflection. Not behind me, but inside the glass. She looked like me. But the eyes were too black. And there's an M mark on her wrist. Throbbing, as if alive. She smiled. I'm not. After the letter, Emily was sure she had to find them. Those who still remember. Her footsteps, guided by something that could hardly be called intuition, led her to a place from the past, the old church of St. Michael, rickety, abandoned, with a trampled alley and broken stained glass windows. He and Amy had once celebrated Easter here, but now the temple seemed dead. But there was something else behind the silence. In the backyard, between overgrown tombstones, Emily noticed a man in a raincoat. He wasn't startled or surprised. It was like he was waiting for her. Did you hear the call? He asked. She nodded. He pushed back the branches, and a trapdoor opened up in front of her, leading under the church. Inside, it smelled of incense, earth, and something ancient. Emily came down. There was a round stone room under the church. In the center is a wooden cross covered with ashes. People were sitting around, all in silence. But there are no icons on the walls. They drew blood, played old films on a worn-out projector. There were faces that had no eyes, and voices that whispered. The truth is not in words. The truth is in the gap. Keep quiet and she'll talk to you. The man in the raincoat took the floor. We don't pray here, he said. We listen to God's silence. We don't glorify a name. We look for what's behind it. Each name has a sign behind it, and the M is just one of them. People think it's the mark of the Messiah. But this is a silence signed in fear. Seal of the person who agrees not to ask questions. They handed Emily a notebook. On its cover, no names left. There were recordings of people like her, people who had come into contact with something beyond. Everyone was talking about the label. Everyone had a choice: either forget or go through. What do you mean pass through? Emily asked. It means dying to death. Erase your name, your will, your fear, and step into a place where the mark no longer holds sway. But why? Her voice was shaky. I saw the light. I saw Jesus. And you think you've been to heaven? What is it? He interrupted, not maliciously, but quietly. You were in the mirror, Emily. In the reflection. The real face is on the other side of the world. He handed her the mirror. The word listen was written on its glass, which was fogged up from the inside. And in that room, under the stone, among the forgotten faces, for the first time, she felt the silence grow louder than any words. Emily sat in the dim light of the old church, where the smell of desolation and bitterness mingled with the cold stone walls. She was holding a mirror, a small one with a gilded frame, but the glass in it seemed alive, as if the darkness itself was trapped inside. Her fingers trembled slightly as they touched the surface, and with each passing second, the feeling of unease grew. Suddenly, the reflection in the mirror began to distort. Thin cracks like cobwebs began to creep across the glass, and these cracks seemed to open a window to another world, shaky and alien, filled with ghosts and whispers without faces. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Her heart beat faster, and her breathing became ragged, but her eyes couldn't look away. From the depths of the mirror came a faint voice, a rustle like wind through dry leaves. You have stepped on the threshold where the line between light and dark is blurred. There are no familiar truths here, only echoes of delusions and lost souls. The mark on your hand isn't just a sign. She's the key. It is a guide for those who dare to see. The voice was both soft and uncompromising, reaching into the deepest recesses of her mind, revealing her fears and hopes. Emily felt the walls around her begin to shrink, as if space were shrinking into something alive, pulsing and waiting. "Why am I here?" "I don't know," she said, feeling the words burn on her tongue. "To choose," said the voice in the mirror, "not between light and dark, but between oblivion and awakening. Many people are afraid of this choice and prefer to live in the shadow of illusions. But you're not like that. You are called to be a guide, even if the path is thorny and lonely." The reflections in the mirror changed. Faces without eyes, distorted by fear and pain, looked at her as if they were begging for salvation. Their whispers turned to screams, and then to a silence so deep that it seemed as if it could swallow up the whole world. Suddenly, the cracks in the mirror began to widen, and a familiar face emerged, Elizabeth's face. Her eyes were shining with tears, but there was a power in them that Emily couldn't understand at first glance. "I warned you," Elizabeth whispered. "What you see next will destroy much of what you knew. Fear is your ally, and doubt is your compass. Don't reject them." Emily yanked the mirror out of her hands, and it abruptly went cold, as if it had lost its life. The mark on her wrist pulsed like a living heart, reminding her that there was no turning back. She stood up, feeling a fire burning inside her, a desire to keep going, even if there was only darkness and uncertainty ahead. The church she was sitting in no longer seemed abandoned. It became a gateway to another world, a world where words were only shadows and truth lived in silence and attention. Emily took the first step out of the gloom, ready to face what lay beyond. Emily stepped out of the church and felt the night air wrap around her body, cold and sharp as a blade. The city seemed to be asleep, but inside her everything was throbbing anxiety, fear, and a strange, almost incomprehensible desire to move on. She didn't know where she was going, but her footsteps led to an abandoned building on the outskirts, an old theater where people once gathered to listen to music and watch plays. There were others there now, those who had heard the whispers of the mirror, those who had seen the marks and marks on their hands, those who understood that the world was not as simple as it seemed. Through the heavy doors, Emily met them, a group of silent but unbroken men. They didn't say much, but their eyes shone with a depth and knowledge that words can't convey. Among them was a silver-haired woman whose face looked both ancient and young, as if she carried all the ages and wisdom of thousands of years. "You're here," she said softly, "so your tag is active. So you heard the call. Don't be afraid of silence. There is power hidden in it. We are the voice of the silent ones. We are the ones who see beyond mirrors, who choose the path of truth in spite of fear." Emily felt the chill inside her mingle with the warmth, the sense of belonging she'd been searching for so long. "What's next? What is it?" she asked. "We're learning to listen," the woman said. "Hear the silence between words, see the light in the shadows. Because the world is changing, and those who are not ready will get lost in this change." "And what's the mark?" Emily asked, looking down at her wrist. "The mark isn't a curse," the woman said. "It's an invitation to awaken. But a warning, the path will be full of challenges. Many will turn away from the light. Many will believe a lie." The word sounded like a sentence, but also like a promise. Emily realized that she hadn't just survived. She'd received a mission to be a light in the dark, a voice for those who have lost hope. The night was getting thicker, But inside the theater, sparks were being lit, sparks of faith, defiance, and determination to move forward. And in that darkness, for the first time, Emily felt that she wasn't alone. The night that had seemed eternal finally began to dissipate. Emily stood at the edge of the abandoned theater, where she'd first heard the call of the silent ones. The air was cold, but there was a fire burning inside her, unquenchable and sharp, like the truth that had been entrusted to her. She knew that the choice before her was not just personal. It was a choice between light and darkness, between redemption and oblivion. Remembering the words of the silver-haired woman, Emily realized that the true test was not in the battle against external evil, but in overcoming her own fears and doubts. In the depths of her soul, she saw darkness, the shadows of the past, the doubts and pain that bound her heart. But at that moment, when everything seemed to be falling apart, she heard a voice, soft but unyielding. "You're not alone," he said. It was Jesus, not the one she knew from the books, but alive, burning with light and wisdom. His eyes penetrated to the heart, carrying both warning and hope. "You've seen a lot," he said. "But truth is not only knowledge. Truth is a love that doesn't give up. The mark on your hand is a symbol of trial, but not a sentence." Emily felt her fear slowly fade away. Instead, she realized that in order to walk the path, she must be ready to bring light to a world of lies and fear. "Your mission is to be a bridge," he continued. "Between the dark and the light, between the lost and the saved. Don't listen to those who frighten or judge you. The truth is always simple. Love, goodbye, believe." With that, the light surrounded Emily, and she felt her soul fill with peace and strength. When she opened her eyes, the world seemed different, no less complex, but now she knew that wherever there was darkness, light could always break through. And she was ready to be that light.